Okay, so we'll get started. Hare Krishna, Shok Prabhu.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So let's get started. Om Gyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Radhikayai Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Namine Shri Krishna Leela Kathane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Gunaisha Yuktam Varam Varenyam Purusham Mahantam Shri Narayanam Tvam Shirsa Namami Tridandinam Bhakta Shiromanim Cha Shri Krishna Padabja Dhritaye Khridi Chaitanya Leelamrita Sara Saram Narayanam Tvam Satatam Prapadde Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanyaya Namne Gauratvise Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे तन्नय माम चरनन्तिके भक्त्या विहीनापराधलक्ष्यै क्षिप्ताश्च कामादितरङ्गमध्यै कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम् जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So first of all, I offer my unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of my most worshipful spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of Thakur Satchidanand Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and to all our Rupanuga Guru Varga, and then my respects to all the devotees who are assembled here. So as you know, we are continuing with the third chapter of Jaiva Dharma. And last time, just a couple of days ago, so hopefully everyone remembers, so we had discussed that how Sannyasi Mahashay, who's now Vaishnav Das, and there was one person there in the assembly who asked a question regarding that why is it that it seems that the Vaishnavas, they don't follow the same rules and regulations or the same process as is followed by the Brahmins, who follow what is written in scriptures like Manu Smriti, various rules and regulations. So that time, then everyone requested Premhans Das Babaji to speak, and he asked Vaishnav Das, who had just that morning been given that name Vaishnav Das, to answer this question. So praying to his Gurudev, he started explaining in a very wonderful way. And we have been reading pretty much every line of this response because it so systematically and concisely explains the concept of Vaidhi and Raganuga tendency or bhakti. So first he explained that the living entities, the jivas, have two types of prakriti, two types of nature. One is Vaidhi, which is following rules and regulations, and one is Raganuga, where out of spontaneous love we worship the Supreme Lord. And he said that unless we are under, till we are under the control of Maya, the illusory energy, till then we do not develop that natural love for Krishna, even though that is innate in the soul. But at the same time, because of our conditioning over so many lifetimes, it does not develop that quickly. So our process has started, but we have not achieved the realization of our Swarup, our spiritual form. And he said that ultimately the freedom from the material conception happens by the will of the Lord. So our effort has to be there, our sadhan has to be there, and ultimately it is the mercy of the Lord. And then he explained that most of the people in this world do not have a conception of Raganuga Bhakti. And we see that, right? Very, very few. First of all, Krishna says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kashchit yatiti siddhai. In Bhagavad Gita says, that out of millions and millions, sahasreshu kashchit yatiti siddhai, someone makes an effort to understand who is the supreme absolute truth. Kashchit yatiti siddhai, yatatanam api siddhanam. Those who make an effort and those who achieve some perfection, there is one, only out of them also some rare soul actually understands me or attains me, right? So to that's this Raganuga or that spontaneous love for Krishna, it is so rare to be found. So then how do people who are conditioned in this world, how do they come out of the material conception? So for that, the Lord, he manifested this system of rules and regulations. So here he says that, so we'll continue. So he says that Bhagwan is all knowing and merciful. And I think we did this last time. Yeah, so he said that only till we come into the association of devotees, we cannot develop this conception of spontaneous love. Brahmanda Brahmite Kauna Bhagavanjeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beej. That wandering from time immemorial in so many different universes, some very fortunate living entity, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, he gets the seed of devotional service. So then he continues that Bhagwan is all knowing and merciful, and he saw that the jivas who are bound by Maya have been cheated of their spiritual inclination. Now, how attain good fortune? By what mean can remembrance of Krishna be aroused in the hearts of the jiva who are enthralled by Maya? They will only be able to understand that they're servants of Krishna if they associate with sadhus, but there is no specific rule that one must associate with sadhus, right? So we go to the university, we go to the school, no place there is any arrangement for us to associate with sadhus. On the contrary, when people start associating with sadhus, most of the people caution, oh, don't at this early age, don't try to become very spiritual, right? And then there is also dearth of real devotees, of pure devotees. So how do then people who are stuck in this material world, how do they really come out of it? Because they need association, right? So he said, consequently, there can be no auspiciousness for people in general without the path of rules and regulations. So that people will not only perform sinful activities. So the Lord created this system of rules and regulations, which is given in the scriptures like Manu Sanghita or Manu Smriti. And he says that the scriptures were manifested from this merciful consideration of Sri Bhagavan, issuing forth by his mercy, the sun of the Shastra arose in the sky of the hearts of ancient Aryan rishis. So basically, this was inspired in the heart of great sages, and who then wrote the scriptures in which various rules and regulations are described. And he will explain this, how the system has been created. So again, the point here is that till we get to the mood of spontaneous love, till that time, so that we do not perform sinful activities, we somehow slowly and gradually move towards the goal of spontaneous love. This process of rules and regulations has been created. So he said, in the beginning, there were the Vedic scriptures. Now, in these Vedic scriptures, some places it teaches karma. Right? So, karma means performing pious activities, which is towards attaining some material fruit. So, there are so many different types of yoga systems in Bhagavad Gita. Also, every chapter Krishna is describing. But at a high level, these have been grouped into three categories. So this is what he's explaining: Karam Yoga, Gyan Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So the first one is Karam. So Karam is when we are performing activities. What type of activities? Pious activities. And the purpose of that is to attain some material results. And then Gyan, which is the path of knowledge. And the purpose of that knowledge is not to gain material enjoyment, but the path of Gyan Yoga is through the process of knowledge we attain liberation. And then it also describes Bhakti Yoga, in which there is love and affection for the Lord. So it says the jivas who are infatuated with Maya are found in many different conditions. Now, the next couple of lines are very important. So let's go through this carefully, because it explains a very important point. Some are completely stupefied, some have a little knowledge, and some are knowledgeable in many subjects. The Shastra provides different type of instructions that are consistent with the different mentalities of the jivas. This differentiation is known as adhikar or eligibility. So very important point he's explaining. See, many times we have this question, why there are so many different kind of religions, even within the Vedic tradition, right? Even within India, so many different paths, so many different types of religions all over the world, so many different types of faiths and religions are there. So why is it so? So he's explaining that the people are at different levels of advancement of their consciousness, of their knowledge. So some are completely stupefied, means they have absolutely no understanding of spirituality. There's so many people that you will meet that they don't even ever think about whether there is a purpose of life or not, or whether there's something beyond death or not. They're just so engrossed in their day-to-day life. Then there's some who have some inclination, so they have a little bit knowledge. Some have more knowledge, and some are very knowledgeable. So remember, we had discussed that there are 8.4 million species of life. Out of those, 400,000 are those of human beings. And the difference in based the Vedic classification of humans is not based on our physical features. It is based on the level of development of our consciousness towards our ultimate spiritual goal. So now just imagine, so right now, for example, let's take our schooling system, right? So when children go to the school, there are several children in one class, 20, 30, 40 children are in one class, and there is one teacher, and they're all taught the same textbook, and the teacher gives the lesson, and all the 40 children are expected to understand it. But the truth is, of those 40 children, not everyone is at the same level. So some understand it very well, Some understand, have some doubts, some have less understanding, and some probably don't understand a whole lot at all. And those who don't understand, and they start falling behind, right? So there are students who end up failing in the class and they don't get, good grades, and then they start falling behind. But now, if there was a system, see, our schooling system, even though it says they're trying to teach everyone, but they're not trying to teach everyone because one, it is not physically possible. Have 30, 40 students and they are in different classes. Now, in some places, like, some school districts, they have programs for at least those children who are very smart, so that they are not held behind. So they are taught some higher concepts, so they're in a separate class. Sometimes they have classes for those children who have some learning disabilities, so that they do some effort to segregate. But let's say all 40 children are at different levels of understanding. It is not possible to have 40 different ways or different classes to teach them. But if it was possible, then what it would ensure is, it may take a little bit longer time for those children who are not at that level, or who are still at the basic level. It may take them a bit longer, but if they're taught at the level that they can understand, then it will be easier for them to get to the higher concepts, and at some point get to the same level as the smartest students in the class. Because if you say medically or physiologically, everyone's brain has the same potency. It's not that those who are smart, they have bigger brain, or those who are not that smart have a smaller brain. That's not the case. Mostly everyone's brain is capable, but then there's some who just don't apply themselves, and there may be other, and reasons because of which they're not able to get to that level. But if everyone is given that chance, then to come to that level, that would be the ideal education system. Now, it is not there in our material education, but that's the system the Lord mercifully created by giving the Vedic scriptures. So if you look at the Vedas, the Puran, the Upanishads, the Puranas, so wide, so many scriptures are there, and throughout these they describe different types of worships, different, which are again at high level categorized between Karam Yoga, Gyan Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. But many, many different things are described, so that based on everyone's level of advancement, they can follow that path. So one thing to understand is that we know what is the highest, right? So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave, Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita describes different yoga systems, but then he ultimately says Bhakti Yoga is the highest. Not everyone will be able to come to this right away. So we have to understand that people are at different levels, and we have to try and at their level teach them and bring them progressively to the next level. So then he says, so this is a very important, he says, this is known as adhikar or eligibility. So just like in the school, to go from one grade to the second grade, you have to qualify, right? So you have to have certain qualification to go to the next level. To go to the university, you need to have qualification. So this differentiation between the ability of different people to understand the spiritual siddhanta, the philosophy, this is called adhikar or eligibility. He says there are countless individual jivas, and they have innumerable varieties of adhikar or eligibility, which have been divided into three broad categories according to their primary characteristics. So based on the three types of yoga, karam, gyan, and bhakti, similarly, the eligibility also divided into three categories. The first is karamadhikar, meaning to perform pious actions which lead to material gain. And similarly, Jnanadhikar, which is eligibility for following the process of knowledge to attain liberation. and then Prem Adhikar, eligibility for unalloyed loving service to Bhagwan. Now the question is, are these all independent of each other, or is there a connection? So he explains that the Veda Shastra specifies these three types of eligibility and establishes proper code of behavior for those in each of these groups. The dharma that the Vedas have thus prescribed is known as Vaidya Dharma. So he's saying all of these, here when Bhakti Yoga is being described, this is also where we are following rules and regulations, which is called Vaidhi Bhakti. So whether you are in the Karam Yoga process or Gyan Yoga or Bhakti, this is where several rules and regulations have to be followed. So he says then the tendency by which a person is compelled to adopt this Vaidya Dharma is known as Vaidhi Pravritti, the proclivity to follow the religious codes of scriptures. So, but he says those who do not have so there are those who have spontaneous love, that's very rare. Then mostly people should follow rules and regulations. That is called the path of Vaidhi Dharma. But those who do not follow what is given in the scriptures, he says what they are doing is avaid, meaning opposed to the injunctions of the scriptures. They are engaged in sinful activities and their lives are given over to actions that defy the regulations of the scriptures. So, we see mostly people in today's day and age don't have much interest in the scriptures, and what they're doing is simply based on what they think is giving them enjoyment, right? So for that, they are ready to go to any extreme to enjoy sense gratification. So this is the avaid, meaning opposed to the injunctions of the scriptures. Such people are excluded from the jurisdiction of Vedas and are known as Malecha, meaning those who are so see, we have one definition of civilization, right? So we think we are civilized when we have a lot of industrialization, lot of machines, lot of robots now, artificial intelligence. So we think this is the sign of civilization, but that is not the sign of civilization. Civilization means one who is following the goal of human life. So as we were in the beginning, we discussed that we are only becoming better at doing the things that animals do, right? Just eating probably more profusely and all kind of fancy food, or better clothes, better housing, more, we may call them better weapons, but more lethal weapons to defend ourselves. So this is not what differentiates us from the animals, right? So the real civilization is when we question athato brahma jigyasa, that who I am, what is the purpose of my life, and this inquiry is what differentiates us from the animals, right? So, and that's what to the extent that the society is pursuing the path of spirituality, to that extent it is a civilized society. So he says that the duties of those in these three eligibility groups, right? So again, those are eligible to perform karma, those performing gyan or knowledge, process of knowledge, or those eligible to perform the process of bhakti or loving devotional service. He says these have been described elaborately in Sanghita Shastras of the rishis, who composed numerous shastras that follow the tenets of the Vedas. So these are all described. There are many scriptures that describe regarding the karma. He says there are about 20 such scriptures, and then there are which are compiled by Manu. And similarly for Gyan, and then similarly there are scriptures that describe the instructions and activities for people eligible for bhakti. And these have been determined by those who are learned in Puranas and pure Tantras. So he says all these literatures are known as Vedic. So there are Shrutis and then there are Smritis. So Shrutis are those that have been received directly. This is called the Vani of the Lord, that the Vedas and the Upanishads, these are called the Shrutis. And then there are Smritis that through remembrance the sages have written down. These are the various Puranas, the Mahabharata, these are all called Smriti. So there is a verse that says, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Panchratra Vidhim Vina Ekantiki Hare Bhakti Utpatev Kalpate. That if we even perform any process, even the process of bhakti, if we are not doing it according to what is given in the Shrutis and Smritis in the scriptures, then that will only create more disturbance in the society and for us as well. So the point again is that we should follow what is given in the scriptures. Nowadays, there is a tendency to think that the scriptures are for those people who are, those who are very orthodox, or those who don't have, who are very unscientific, right? So, but that's a misconception. Especially the Vedic scriptures are very scientifically explained. When we read Gita, the Bhagavatam, the various Vedic scriptures, there's a very systematic process explained in these scriptures. So he says, so this is what the Vedic scriptures have given, and it is a plan of the Lord to bring everyone to the higher level. But he says those modern day philosophers, what they have done, because they do not understand the real purpose of the scriptures, they have tried to establish the superiority of only one of its limbs. So they've just taken one part from a scripture, and then they have tried to explain that and say, oh, that only is the highest. They have not understood the interrelationship, and that this is what he will explain going forward between these different systems. And what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal again is to develop unalloyed love for the Supreme Lord. So he says, because the way the modern day philosophers have explained things, only taking one portion of a scripture, then also not explaining the meaning correctly, this has caused immense amount of confusion and doubt in the minds of the people. And that's the reason a lot of people have lost faith in dharma, in religion, in the scriptures. So he says, Bhagavad Gita, which is the matchless deliberation on all these shastras, clearly establishes that karma not aiming at jnana is atheistic and should be rejected. Karma yoga and jnana yoga that are not directed towards bhakti are also cheating processes. In reality, karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga form a single yoga system. This is the Vedic Vaishnava Siddhanta. So very important thing he's saying. So think that, many people say this, there are many paths and all lead to the same goal. No, that's not true. See, when you have to come to, let's say, my house, right? I live on a certain street, there's a certain street address. You may come from 3-4 different directions, but as you start getting closer to my house, there is only one road that comes to my house, and there's only one passageway that leads inside my house, right? You go anywhere, you may have, we go to the temple, so you may come, like those who are in Houston, you may come from Highway 6, get onto Keith Harrow Boulevard, or you may come from Barker Cypress, come from the other side. But towards the end, you have to come on that street, which is Keith Harrow Boulevard, and only through one entrance you get inside the building, right? So similarly, even though there are, these different yoga systems are not independent, and this is what he's explaining, that Karam Yoga is not independent. This has to lead, if we are performing karma, meaning pious activities, even for the purpose of getting some material gains, he says this, if it is not aimed at achieving knowledge, right? then it is atheistic. Then there is no benefit of that karma yoga, and it should be rejected. And then he says both karam and gyan. So karam gyan, yoga should lead to gyan yoga, and gyan should lead ultimately towards bhakti. But if it does not, then he says they are only a cheating process. And this is what is happening today. The and Krishna explains this very, very clearly in Bhagavad Gita, very clearly in Bhagavad Gita. He, in fact, pretty much in every chapter emphasizes that bhakti is the only path. That bhaktya mam abhijanati, towards the end also he says. Then he says, man mana mad bhaktoho, become my devotee. There cannot be anything clearer than this. But the modern day philosophers, they end up misinterpreting these. So there are 1100 translations of Bhagavad Gita. And in most of those translations, they do not even accept that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Now, throughout Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is referring to himself. Aham sarva prabhu mattah sarvam pravartate, that I am the creator, everything manifests from me. Mat chittaha mat gat pranaha, that absorb your mind in me. Man mana bhav mad bhaktoho, become my devotee, absorb your mind in me. Yat karoshi yat ashnasi, tat kurushva mat arpanam, whatever you do, do it as a service unto me. So now these are all the transformations of the Sanskrit root word called asmat. Asmat means I. And then this is also, if you've read Sanskrit, so aham, mam, these are all different transformations of this root word. So he's standing on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and there in front of Arjun, and he's telling to Arjun that I am the Supreme Lord, indicating himself. Now, these modern day, many so-called scholars, what they say, well, when he says aham, this is not any Supreme Lord. This is that, all-pervading, absolute, true effulgence, which has no form, but that is there in each one of us, because each one of us is God. Aham Brahmasmi. So like this, they try to twist the meanings of the Sanskrit verses. Actually, in many, many translations of Bhagavad Gita, they have not even given the Sanskrit verses. Right? So this is the problem. This is what he's saying. So this is, in fact, a cheating process. They are misguiding innocent people. And the meaning of the Sanskrit verses is very clear. But by giving wrong interpretations, they completely bewilder common men. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Jagannath Puri, there he met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, beautiful pastime explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he saw that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was a young sannyasi, was doing Sankirtan and in dancing ecstasy. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was a very famous Brahmavadi of that time, so he said, well, this does not behoove a sannyasi, someone who's the renounced order, that he's dancing on the streets, chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You should be seriously studying the Vedanta. So Mahaprabhu in great humility said, okay, please explain to me the Vedanta. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he started explaining Vedanta. And Mahaprabhu was quietly listening. 7 days passed, and Mahaprabhu did not say, he did not say, he didn't say anything. So then Sarvabhauma started becoming a bit restless. He said, I've been explaining this for 7 days, and you have not asked any question. You have not countered me anything. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So then Mahaprabhu spoke, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said that when you recite the Sanskrit verse, it is crystal clear, just like the sun shining in the sky. It's crystal clear. But when you give the meaning of that verse, it seems like dark clouds have covered the sun. So meaning what Mahaprabhu was saying is that your misinterpretation of the verses is completely bewildering. So hearing this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became very angry. He says, what do you mean? He was the most recognized Vedantist or scholar of that time. And now someone is telling him that you don't even know what is the meaning of these verses. And then Mahaprabhu, then there's this verse, Atma Rama Muneshcha Nirgrantha Api Urukrame. So then Mahaprabhu explained the meaning of this in so many different ways. And actually, explaining that how this establishes the supremacy of devotional service. So that hearing this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was completely, he was speechless. And that day, he, in the night time, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, who was his worshipable deity, came in his dream and said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not an ordinary person. He is the Supreme Lord himself. So surrender unto him. So very beautiful pastime described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, and this is what happens with the modern philosophers also. So crystal clear, easy to understand what Krishna has given in Bhagavad Gita, but because they do not want to accept the authority of the Lord, they twist the meanings of the verses and then also misguide and cheat the ordinary people. So he said then, so I'm continuing, but if anyone has any question, please feel free to unmute and you can ask, or you can just put it in the chat. So he says, so this is the to understand is that these are not three separate paths. These are steps towards on a staircase. So when you have to go from one floor to the next floor, you put your foot on the first step. Now, if you just keep standing on the first step, that I have already taken one step, then it still has not served the purpose, because that first step should lead to the next step. And unless you take the next step and the third step, you will not reach the floor, the floor that you have to go to, or your goal. So similarly, just saying, oh, karma yoga is a process is not true, because karma yoga will never lead to the Supreme Lord. No, it is, yes, it will start the process. It will get to the point of Gyan and make you eligible for that, but it will not lead to the Supreme Lord. So these are all steps. And finally, it is only through bhakti that one attains the Supreme Lord. So he says, but for those who are bewildered by Maya, right? For most of us who are conditioned in this world, because bhakti is, from, even though it is the simplest, very difficult for most people to understand. What is easy? Performing karma, performing actions, and getting some material gains. This is easy for most people. So this is where the process starts. So he says, however, if he's not shown that all these are, so he says, so this is what he's saying, that ultimately these are different steps on one staircase. The conditioned jiva, till he takes the steps, cannot ascend to the temple of bhakti. So our goal is to get to the temple of bhakti, but if you're not taking this step at a time, then we will not achieve it. So what does it mean to adopt the path of karma? Karma consists of the activities that one performs with the body or mind in the course of maintaining one's lives. So here he's explaining that karma is activity that we perform either by our body or even by our mind. So in previous ages, if someone did something sinful, even through the mind, thinking there was reaction. But in Kali Yuga, that leeway has been given, that even if a bad thought comes in the mind, a sinful thought, you will not get a reaction for it, because most of the people in this material, today's day and age, have negative or bad thoughts. But as long as you don't translate that into action, but when you translate that into the action, that's when the reaction is there. So it says there are two types of karma, shubh and ashubh. Those which are auspicious, and then those who are inauspicious. And the results that the jiva obtains by performing shubh karma, by pious activities, auspicious activities, one gets auspicious results. And by performing inauspicious karma or ashubh karma, one gets sinful reactions. And this is called vikarma or prohibited acts. And then he says that even the non-performance of auspicious karma, it is called akarma. So there are two things. One is vikarma, which are sinful activities. And the second thing is akarma, meaning not performing those activities that we must perform, the auspicious activities. So it says both of these are bad. So you cannot say, oh, I'm not performing bad activities, but I will not do anything. No, that is also wrong, because Krishna tells in Gita also to Arjun that everyone has to act, everyone has to perform action, that even I do not sit without performing action. So action has to be performed, but it just has to be the right action. And then he explains that the auspicious karma, the Shubh karma, is of three types. One is called Nitya karma, one is called Nimittik, and one is called Kamya. Nitya karma means that obligatory duties. So here the word Nitya does not mean eternal. So the next, couple of paragraphs, he is going to explain Nitya karma and why it is being called Nitya karma. But here Nitya karma does not mean eternal. It means obligatory daily rites. So for example, we perform our Gayatri mantra. So that is something called Nitya karma. So this is something because of taking Brahminical initiation, you are required to perform. It's one of the rules to follow. So this is called Nitya karma. Then Nimittik, which is circumstantial duties. For some reason, you are performing those duties. And then there is Kamya karma, means those ceremonies which are performed out of a desire for personal benefit. So even though most people perform Kamya karma, but it is only self-centered. There is no spiritual goal in Kamya karma. It is only being performed to attain material wealth for your own self. So he says, therefore, the scriptures don't necessarily delve into Kamya karma, because the purpose of scriptures is not to get us more entangled in material life. The purpose of the scriptures is to get us out of this entanglement. So they discourage Kamya karma, means, so they don't discourage action. They only discourage actions that are only for the purpose of your own personal enjoyment. So he says then the so what when Shastras are describing karma, they're only talking about Nitya karma and Nimitta karma. Only, even though Kamya karma is also considered karma, it is also considered action, but the scriptures don't count it as a karma. Although Kamya karma is counted as karma, it is undesirable and should be given up. So only Nitya karma and Nimitta karma truly accepted as karma. So just one thing to understand here, because we also in the previously studied about Nitya Dharma and Nimittik Dharma, right? So eternal religion and circumstantial or temporary religion. So that we should not confuse with these. So even though the adjective words are the same, there Nitya and Nimittik was used to qualify dharma. Here these words are being used to qualify karma, but their meaning is different, and that's what he will explain. He says Nitya karma. What is Nitya karma? So he says it is those actions that produce auspiciousness for the body, for the mind, for the society, and which results in promotion to other planets, higher planets after death. So eating sattvic food, meaning eating food which is in mode of goodness, and performing activities which make your mind peaceful, things that are also favorable for the well-being of everyone in the society, all of these are considered Nitya karma. And he says everyone is obligated. We should perform Nitya karma because this is what the human society is supposed to be doing. So whether it is like offering prayers, chanting your Gayatri mantras, using honest means to maintain one's body and society, behaving truthfully, and caring for one's family members and dependents. So all of these, so taking care of your family, doing your job, honestly, and making money for your family, taking care of them. All of this, he's saying these are our obligations that we have to do. Then what is Namittik Karma? These are the activities or actions that we perform under certain circumstances. So, for example, like according to the Vedic injunctions, when the mother, father, or someone in the family dies, then we perform certain rites for the departed soul. So that is only performed when there is a death in the family, right? Otherwise, you would not perform those kind of rites on a daily basis. So therefore, it is called Namittik Karma, right? So I hope everyone got up to this point. So now he says that the authors of the scriptures first examined the nature of human beings and their natural eligibility. And then, so they have given all these rules and regulations. Now, how to construct a system of society that these rules and regulations can be applicable and that everyone can follow them. So, what they did was, so he says they created a system which is called Varnashram Dharma. So most of you must have heard of this Varan and Ashram. So this is the basis of a Vedic society, of a civilized society, where there are different Varnas, which means the different categories within the social structure, and then the different ashrams mean different phases of our life. And the goal of all of this is that everything moves within the society and our life smoothly with ultimate purpose of attaining self-realization. So, as most of you know, Varna means the four groups within the society are the Brahmins, which are the teachers, the gurus. Then there are the Kshatriyas, who are the warriors, or the people who are the administrators, the rulers. They're all called Kshatriya. And then Vaishyas, which is the mercantile class doing business, and all people who are performing jobs. And then the Shudra, those who perform various labor activities. He says these are, and similarly, there are four phases of life. So we'll come to that. So he says people, so for, let's see where it is here. Okay. So people are also situated in four orders of stages, and this is Brahmachari, and then Grihastha, Vanprastha, and Sannyas. But those who are fond of akarma and vikarma, so remember we said vikarma is performing sinful activities, and akarma is not to perform the auspicious activities. So he had earlier said that both of this should be avoided. But people who only do this, either they will do sinful activities and they do not follow what is given in the scriptures, they are not within these four groups of the society. They are called Antyaja or outcast. This is as per the Vedic system, and are not situated in any ashram either. So again, unfortunately, most of the society nowadays is like this. But the important point to understand here is that the various classes in the society are not based on one's birth. He says it is based on one's nature, birth, activities, and characteristics. When the class of a society, that whether someone is a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, this is determined only on the basis of birth, the original purpose of Varnashram is lost. So birth is only one factor, but that is not the predominant factor. Actually, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita clearly states, Chatur Varnaya Maya Srishtam Gun Karma Vibhagasha, that I have created these four orders of society, and this is Gun Karma Vibhagasha based on one's qualities and one's activities. So one could be born in any country, in any society, in any class of the society, but one can become a Brahman. One could be born in a Brahman's family, but his inclination is to do business, so he's actually a Vaishya. So like this, it is not so much based on birth, but based on one's nature and one's activities. And similarly, he says the classification of the phases of life is based on whether one is married, one is not married. Among all of this, sannyas is the highest ashram, and Brahmins are, because they are the teachers of the society, they're certainly considered the better, the highest of all the varnas. Now, this does not mean that the other varnas have to be looked down upon. Unfortunately, in India, again, this varnashram system, whose purpose was to uplift everyone and have them progress towards a spiritual path, the so-called pundits of those days, for their own ulterior purposes, again, as we were saying, they completely misrepresented what was given in the scriptures. They even forbade people from reading the scriptures, and they created this, caste system which was based on birth. So, which was very, very wrong, but that is not. It is not supported by the scriptures. And then he quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam, where in the 11th canto, chapter 17, Krishna is speaking to Uddhav, and there he describes the activities, what people in each one of these varnas and ashrams should follow, what are the rules and regulations. So this everyone can read. This is from verse number 15 to 21 in chapter 17. So you can all read that. I will not go through it. But the last verse in here is an important verse where he says, Ahimsa satyam astayam akam krodh lobhata bhupriya hiteha cha dharma ayam sarva varnikaha. Sarva varnikaha. Sarva means every. Varnikaha, you may be in any class, right? You may be a Brahman, you may be a Kshatriya, you may be a business like Vaishya, or you may be a Shudra. It does not matter. You may be in any one of the Varnas, but these things everyone should follow. And see, what is it? The first one is ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-violence. So non-violence is a very important thing. That's why sometimes it is said ahimsa paramo dharma, that ahimsa is, or the non-violence is considered the highest religion. Now, there's a lot of details in this. Don't have the time to go through that. But the point here is non-violence, truthfulness, honesty, and desire for the happiness and welfare of others, and freedom from anger and greed. These are the duties for all members of society. Now, just see how wonderful it is. Now, I wish we could all live by these traits. By following these, then there would be just happiness and peace throughout the society. So ahimsa means not killing others, right? Whether it's not animals or anyone. So non-violence is a very important thing that we should practice. So then he says a very important thing. So he's describing this varnashram dharma. He says the prominence of impiety in a country is measured by the extent to which varnashram dharma is absent there. So he says, to what extent in a society or in a country this varnashram dharma, this structure of the society, and people live their life by following these 4 phases of life. First 25 years dedicate to education, which includes spiritual education. Next 25 years live in your household. Then next 25 years slowly start detaching yourself, and then final 25 years live as completely renounced. So it says, to the extent that a country has this system in place, to that extent there will be piety, or other ways, to the extent that they have not implemented that, to that extent there will be impiety in a country. So now we can see most of the country, I would say 100% of the countries don't have the system implemented, and that's the reason we see everywhere there is strife, everywhere there is disturbance, everywhere there are problems. And if one, if you sit and carefully reflect on the Vedic system, you can see that this is the only way that the society can be saved. Nowadays there are predictions that by 2040 the society will collapse, or by 20 certain, because the way things are going, the social structures will collapse, and we can see these crumbling in the front of our eyes. If our acharyas, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, they really, really emphasize this is called Daivi Varanashram. So this is not a caste-based system. This is a transcendental system because the goal of this Varanashram is to attain spiritual advancement. So they really tried to implement this. But again, the forces of Kali are so strong. The forces of this age of ignorance are so strong that we don't see this Varanashram established anywhere. So now one last couple of things that we will discuss today. So now, as I was saying, let's not get confused by the word nitya. Nitya means eternal. And then we were using the word nitya karma. So he says, let's consider in what sense the word nitya and nimitic have been used in relation to the word karma. If we consider the profound purport of the Shastras, we can see that these two words have not been used to refer to karma in a paramarthik sense. Paramarthik means spiritual. So these words have not been used from a spiritual perspective, which they have only been used in a routine of figurative sense. Okay, so this word nitya is only saying that in this body, when you are there are certain things that you should perform daily. So there are some routine activities that you should perform. Therefore, it is called nitya. It is not considered nitya because these activities we will perform eternally. Remember, we talked about nitya dharma. The chanting is nitya dharma. We will perform it even in the spiritual world. But even chanting the Gayatri mantras or performing many of the things that even in our process of bhakti that we do as rules and regulations, we don't perform this in Golok Dham when one gets liberated. So these are called just nitya only in a routine and figurative sense. Properly speaking, words like nitya dharma, nitya karma, nitya tattva can only be used to describe the pure spiritual condition of the jiva. Then he says something very important. Therefore, in the general use of the word nitya karma, the word nitya is applied to the word karma only in a figurative way, because karma in this world is a means to an end and only remotely indicates eternal truth. Actually, karma is never eternal, right? So the point is, when we are saying nitya karma, the word karma, it is defining, it is the adjective for the word karma, the noun karma, right? But karma or action itself is not eternal, right? The actions that you perform today have the results also are temporary. So the action itself is not an eternal thing. We perform actions based on where we have taken birth in this life and what is our tendency and inclinations. But in the next life, it will be different. So this is not something eternal. So karma and gyan may only be thought of as nitya in the indirect sense. When karma is directed towards gyan, by means of karam yoga, and when gyan is directed towards bhakti. So, so here he's again saying that when we say nitya karma, it is only to the extent because from a distance these activities are connected, right? Because ultimately the goal is to get to the point of unalloyed love for the Lord. So just like when you are starting going up the staircases, so you have not reached the top floor, but as you take each step, they say, oh, you are climbing, right? So you're going towards the top floor or the next floor. So because some of these activities like chanting the Gayatri mantras, they from a distance remotely are directed towards bhakti. Therefore, he says there is no harm in calling them nitya karma, because ultimately their aim is to get to the point of nitya dharma. Actually, the only true nitya karma for the jiva is Krishna prem. In ontological terms, this true nitya karma is referred to as unalloyed spiritual cultivation, Vishuddh Chit Anushilanam. When in our purified state, with the favorable mood, we render loving devotional service to Shri Krishna. So, Anukulyana Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. Anushilanam means to perform seva, perform activities, and how anukulyan. So activities directed towards reinstating one's pure transcendental consciousness. The physical activities that one will naturally have to adopt to attain this Chit Anushilan are assistants to Nitya Karma, so there's no fault in referring them to Nitya Karma. From the absolute perspective, though, it would be better to refer to such activities as Nimittik rather than Nitya, because ultimately they are temporary, they are not permanent. So the divisions of karma into Nitya and Nimittik are only from a relative viewpoint and not from the absolute spiritual perspective. So, he's explaining the usage of these words Nitya and Nimittik. And as I was saying before, we should not confuse this with Nitya Dharma and Nimittik Dharma. So we will stop here and continue next time. Some very important points that Vaishnav Das ji is explaining in this answer. So this whole chapter, he's answering that one question that this person asked. And again, very, very important aspects. I would again request that please do read this. And if you have any questions, do let me know. I think we have one question here. Let's see. So the difference between Smriti and Shruti. So Smriti, so Shruti comes from the word Shravan. So those that have been directly heard from the Supreme Lord, those are the Vedas and the Upanishads. Okay, so that is Shruti. And Smriti means from remembrance. So after hearing from remembrance, the sages have written down various Puranas and then Mahabharata, all these books. So they are called Smriti. So generally, it is said that Shruti, because those are directly heard from the Supreme Lord, therefore they take precedence. That what they describe is the truth. But Smritis are also considered part of the Vedic literature. And of course, among all of them, the final conclusion is Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So let's say anyone else has any question.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have a question. So
Yes,
we said that Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. So when the person achieves the real prem, Krishna prem, then Vaidhi Bhakti stops there, right? So then do we do that Bhakti again, then Manas with Mana, we do the Seva because we stop the Vaidhi Bhakti after achieving the prema?
Yeah. So see, as long as we are in this body, in the physical body, our acharyas have followed the Vaidhi Marg in terms of following the rules and regulations, right? So even like the six Goswamis, Sankhya Purvak Nama Vichar, so they would also chant the holy name on the beads, Sankhya Purvak, by counting. And in this physical body anyways, one cannot experience prem. We cannot come to that because this body cannot take the pure love of the Lord. But once that mood of raganuga starts developing, so we have not attained it, right? But even when, like, we are trying to follow the path of Rupanuga Bhakti, following the path given by Rupa Goswami, but we are still also following the process, the rules that are described in Vaidhi Bhakti, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Vaidhi Bhakti is only helping make the boundary, some guardrails it is providing. But Vaidhi Bhakti does not lead to Raganuga Bhakti. So yesterday also someone asked this question. This is an important point to understand, that Vaidhi Bhakti does not lead to Raganuga Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti can just make you eligible. But to attain Raganuga Bhakti, you have to associate with someone who has that mood. Without having the association of a Raganuga Bhakta, you cannot attain Raganuga Bhakti. So to your point, how do we perform? So Raganuga Bhakti, of course, it is all starts with bhav. Once you start developing that mood, that love, and love is experienced, starts with, of course, the mind that we know of, then ultimately it is manifested within our soul, because the soul is the one that has that eternal relationship of the love, not the material mind. But that's where it starts getting purified, and you experience the mood and the emotions, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but the point is that we do not stop following. Now, those who are very, very elevated, right? And they may be doing bhajan in their own, um, secret, hidden places. They are very elevated personalities. But when we are living in a society of devotees, when we are living, our acharyas have told us that we have to continually follow the rules and regulations as well. Otherwise, we will become sahajiya.
Yeah.
Um, because the mood of raganuga is when actually you don't need to follow any rules and regulations. But the truth is, when you are so, like, let me give an example. So right now we are given the one of the rules is get up in the morning at the Brahm Muhurat, and then you take bath, and then you do your deity worship, and then you chant the different ashtakams, you do your whole chant the holy name. These are rules. But someone who, and we are following this because right now we don't have love, we don't have taste for the holy name. That's the reason it has been told to us that you should chant 16 rounds. Otherwise, we will not chant 16 rounds. We'll chant 1 or 2 rounds, and then we will not do it. But someone who has developed the taste, he does not has to be told. He will automatically get up in the morning. He will automatically chant. He will automatically, with like great love and affection, worship. Right? Like we were the other day in our Braj Mandal program, we were discussing regarding Param Pujyapat Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj. He was with so much love and affection, worshipping his deities. He's a Nitya Siddh associate. He's an eternally liberated personality. So he didn't have to be told. So a personality like him, even though he's at the Raganuga or the Rupanuga stage, but now in one sense, doing deity worship, Archan, Sandhan, chanting Gayatri Mantra, these are part of Vaidhi Bhakti, but he's still doing it. But he's doing it out of a lot of love and affection. Right? So their deity worship is not deity worship that we do, because we are doing it without any bhav. Right?
Right.
So does that answer your question? So you do not give up following the rules and regulations, but you do it. They actually become part of your seva only.
Yeah. Probably,
But again, those rules and regulations don't have to be followed when we are in the spiritual world. So there is no Vaidhi Bhakti in the spiritual world.
probably here we don't follow rules and regulations. It can be taken in this sense that I not only chant early in the morning, maybe the whole day I'm doing it. So
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
Because then you don't have to be told to chant, or you don't have to, kind of force. See, Vaidhi Bhakti is done out of force.
Yes.
You force yourself to do it. So just like that, the example I was giving, right? You go to office out of force, right? You don't love. I mean, of course, some people enjoy going to the office, but most people, oh, I have to go to work, and there you have to follow rules and regulations. But at home, you do things out of love, right? And it is spontaneous. You come and cook for your husband, or you take care of your children, or the husband does something for the children. It's just spontaneous. Because it is out of love. Love is the driving force. At office, it's not. Love is not the driving force, right?
Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And Prabhuji, related to this, right? I mean, we talked about the Brahmins, we talked about Vaishnavas, and we talked about so many dharmas, right? So is it safe to assume that I can consider myself a Brahmin if I am following the Varnashrama Dharma because of my birth, by my role, because there are four different roles that I can play, and I am choosing one of those. However, I am a Vaishnav because I follow Naimatika Dharma,
Mm-hmm.
and I have one pointed attention to Radha and Krishna, and that's the love that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point of time, I will transition to following Naimatika Dharma and not follow the Varnashrama Dharma.
So I didn't understand the question exactly. If you can, so are you saying that are we following Varnashram Dharam? Can we consider that we are Brahmins? Is that your question, or?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, so see again the very interesting and good question. So just like Shri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, Shri Swami Maharaj, they wanted to establish the Varnashram Dharam, right? Because again, to have some structure in the society, because if we don't have a structure in the society, then there'll be anarchy, there'll be chaos. But at the same time, the mood of a Vaishnav is not the thing that I'm a Brahman or a Vaishya. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his conversations with Rai Ramanand, he first said Varnashram. Right? That's the first. He says Mahaprabhu had asked him what is sadhan, what is sadhan, and when he explained Varnashram, then Mahaprabhu said Eho Bahya. This is external. Say something more. Varnashram Dharma, he completely rejected Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's a famous verse. It says, Naham Vipra Nachar Narpati Napi Vaishya Na Shudra Naham Varni Nacha Grihapati Navanastayativa Kintu Prodya Nikhil Parmananda Punamritabdhe Gopi Bhartu Pad Kamalyo Das Das Anudasaha. That I am Naham Vipra Nachar Narpati. So he's saying, neither I am a Brahman, nor I am a Kshatriya, nor I am a Vaishya, nor a Shudra. Then he says, Naham Varni Nacha Grihapati, neither I am a Brahmachari, or I am a Grihastha or a sannyasi even. He said, then who am I? Kintu Prodya Nikhil Paramananda Purnamritabdhe Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalyo Das Das Anudasa, that I am the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of the gopis. That is how. So Varnashram Dharam will not lead us to Raganuga. It is this mood that will lead to Raganuga. So a Vaishnav does not generally think of himself as a Brahman or a Kshatriya or anything. That is not conducive to our goal. But at the same time, now, so this is the point to understand. We may live in a society. So for example, if there was a society of Vaishnav devotees, there will be some devotees who are teachers, right? Who are teaching, who are giving classes. Then there's some, like Swami Maharaj has tried to establish these farm communities. And then there's some devotees who are farming and some devotees who are doing some other work. So you can say that there is some categories in the society, but those devotees themselves are not thinking that I'm a Brahman or a Vaishya or a Kshatriya, right? So there is this subtle difference that we have to understand, that even though it is encouraged, just so that we have a structure in the society, because majority of the people otherwise will fall into chaos. But as part of our bhajan, we should never develop this mood that, oh, I'm a Brahman or I'm a Vaishya, right? That is not the goal, right?
Got it.
And even if we are born in a Brahman family, we should, because we have to rise above that mood, because these are again all related to our physical body. This has nothing to do, being a Brahman Kshatriya has nothing to do with our soul. This is only related to who we are in this particular birth, right? So our meditation, and when we chant the Gayatri mantras, right, so meditation is on this mood, that Gopi Bhartu Pad Kamalyo Das Das Anudasa.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Clear.
Okay, does that answer your question, Ashok?
Yes, yes, it does. It does.
Okay. Okay, anyone else has any question? Okay, then. Thank you, everyone. And stay warm. I know it's getting colder everywhere, so stay warm. And then we'll meet next Sunday. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.